It started like any other night. Dinner was finished, our son was upstairs gaming, and my wife sat scrolling through her phone on the couch. I remember the glow of the screen lighting her face, her thumb moving rapidly, typing with a small smirk. I didn't think much of it. After all, she always texted her friends. I trusted her. At least, I thought I did.
Later that night, she went upstairs to take a shower. Normally, she carried her phone everywhere, even just to grab a glass of water. But this time, she left it face down on the coffee table. Something in me stirred. Curiosity, suspicion. I'm not the type to snoop, but the way she had been smiling at her phone lately, laughing at private jokes that never included me, it ate at me. I reached for it. The screen lit up with her messaging app open. A notification blinked. Operation Divorce Jack. My blood ran cold. My name is Jack.
I froze, staring at the group name. My chest pounded so hard it hurt. Operation Divorce Jack? What kind of friends chat names themselves that? Unless it was about me. At first, it looked like harmless chatter. Memes, jokes, gossip. But then I scrolled up. Phase 1 is working. He's so clueless. Keep acting sweet, he'll never see it coming. They were talking about me, my wife and her friends, mocking me. Message after message hit me like bricks. They weren't just planning a divorce, they were strategizing it, like it was some kind of mission. Jack's so naive. Just keep smiling. Soon you'll be free and we'll celebrate. And then the kicker, from my wife herself. He has no idea. He'll never see it coming. My vision blurred with rage. I scrolled further. Screenshots. She had been sharing conversations, not with me, but with another man, a coworker. Inside jokes, heart emojis, late-night messages. Her friends cheered her on. He's way hotter than Jack. You deserve better. Jack'll be fine. He's boring anyway. I felt my stomach twist, bile rising in my throat. I dropped the phone onto the couch, hands trembling. My entire marriage flashed before me. Our wedding, the birth of our son, vacations, quiet mornings. Was all of it a lie? Was she just biding her time, plotting how to leave me while humiliating me with her friends? I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. She came downstairs, fresh from the shower, hair damp. I forced a smile, heart hammering. "How's Emma?" I asked casually, naming one of her friends. "Oh, she's fine," my wife replied, too quickly. "And work? Everything good with that new coworker of yours?" She stiffened. "Yeah? Why?" I shrugged. "Just asking." Inside, I was boiling. The next day, I watched her closely. She texted constantly, always turning her phone away. When I leaned near, she laughed nervously. "Paranoid much?" she teased. Only if she knew I had already seen everything. That night, I couldn't hold it in. "What's Operation Divorce Jack?" I asked bluntly. Her face went pale, color draining instantly. She stuttered. "What are you talking about?" I told her. Every detail. The messages, the screenshots, the affair. She tried to grab her phone, but I already had the evidence burned into my memory. She broke down, crying,
saying I misunderstood. It was just jokes. We didn't mean anything by it. Jokes? I spat. So planning to leave me, mocking me behind my back, that's just comedy to you? She swore there was no affair, that the coworker was just a friend. But the late-night messages with hearts told a different story. The next morning, the chat was gone, deleted, but I had already taken photos with my own phone. She must have warned her friends because they all went quiet. No apologies, no explanations, just silence. Ironically, it was one of her own friends who reached out to me privately. She admitted it had gone too far, that yes, my wife had been talking about leaving me, that yes, there had been more than friendship with the coworker. But apparently, my wife's friends had gotten tired of the drama and turned on her. I confronted her one last time. She begged. She said it was all a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. But once you read your wife writing, "He'll never see it coming," you can't unsee it. I packed a bag that night and left. Now, I sit in a small apartment, typing this out. My son stays with me part-time. He doesn't fully understand, but he knows something broke between us. I don't know what hurts more, the betrayal itself, or the fact that she made it entertainment for her friends. And that's why I'm here, to ask strangers on Reddit, what would you do if you found your marriage reduced to a cruel group chat titled Operation Divorce? Your name. I remember the exact moment. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding a little plastic stick in her hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We're gonna have a baby," she whispered. My heart exploded with joy. I wrapped her in my arms, already picturing nursery colors, baby names, all the dreams that come when you think your life is finally complete. For months, I was on cloud nine. I painted the nursery, built the crib, and read books on fatherhood. She laughed at how obsessed I was becoming, but I didn't care. I wanted to be the best dad in the world. But then, little things started happening. One of her friends joked, "Wow, the baby looks like someone else we know." They all laughed, but my stomach turned. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was paranoid. The day came. Our child was born. I held him in my arms, tiny fingers curling around mine. Pure love. But something gnawed at me. His features didn't quite match mine. I pushed the thought away. Love was stronger than doubt, or so I thought. At a small get-together, one of her coworkers let something slip. "You two must be relieved it's Jack's kid, after all." Then silence. Awkward stares. My wife's fake laugh. My chest tightened. What did they mean, after all? Later, my best friend pulled me aside. "Listen, man, I've heard rumors about her, about someone else at her office." I refused to believe it. But the seed was planted, and once it was there, it grew. I noticed things I hadn't before. Her late nights, the way she flinched when I mentioned certain coworkers, her insistence that the baby looked just like her uncle. Every excuse dug the knife deeper. Finally, I confronted her gently. "What if we did a DNA test, just for peace of mind?" Her face hardened instantly. She exploded. "How dare you? After everything I've gone through carrying this child, you want to insult me like that?" The intensity of her anger. It scared me. She cried, screamed, threatened to leave. "If you loved me, you wouldn't even ask this." But love without trust is nothing.
and by then I had none left. So I did it in secret. A few swabs, carefully sealed, sent off in an envelope. My hands shook as I dropped it in the mailbox. It felt like betrayal, but I had to know. The days dragged on. She noticed my distance and accused me of being cold. I couldn't tell her what I'd done. At night, I stared at the ceiling, rehearsing every possible outcome. Finally, it came. A plain white envelope. My hands trembled as I ripped it open. My eyes scanned the words. Probability of paternity, 0%. The world collapsed around me. I sat there, clutching the paper, while my entire life replayed in my mind. The nursery, the crib, the baby's first smile, all built on lies. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She broke down, sobbing. It was a mistake. I thought it was yours. I hoped. But hope doesn't rewrite biology. I walked out. Not because I didn't love the child, but because I couldn't live in a marriage built on betrayal. And that's why I'm here, on Reddit, because I need to know. What would you do if you discovered the baby you raised wasn't yours? It started innocently enough. We sat at the kitchen table, bills spread out in front of us. I thought we were on the same page about money, but her numbers never quite added up. I began noticing money disappearing from our joint account. Small amounts at first, but over months, thousands were unaccounted for. Whenever I asked, she brushed me off. One night while cleaning, I found a locked drawer in her desk. She had never locked anything before. My gut told me it wasn't just work files inside. I pulled up our statements. There were transfers I didn't recognize, routed into accounts I had never heard of, always just below $5,000, like she was trying not to trigger alerts. When I asked, she smiled and said, "Relax, I'm just saving for a rainy day." Her tone was sharp, defensive. Then came the discovery. I finally saw the account on her laptop while she left it open one night. Account name? Widow Fund. My blood went cold. Widow? I was alive, sitting right there in the house. Why on earth would she call it that? I confronted her. She laughed nervously. "Oh, come on, it's just a joke. Like, if something ever happened to you, I'd be covered." But her eyes darted away, full of guilt. When I pressed harder, she snapped. "Don't you trust me? You're paranoid. You're making me feel unsafe in my own home." Classic deflection. I couldn't let it go. I contacted the bank, quietly, and confirmed she'd been funneling money into it for years. Nearly $60,000 sat in that account, hidden. A mutual friend slipped one day. She's always bragging about her safety net. When I asked what she meant, she froze, realizing she'd said too much. I checked her phone when she left it unattended. There it was, a message to a friend. "Once I'm out, I'll have enough in the widow fund to start fresh." Not if he dies, not if something happens, but once I'm out. I cornered her with everything I knew, the bank records, the messages, the lies. She screamed, cried, said I was violating her privacy. Never once did she deny the account. Finally, she admitted it. She'd been planning to leave me for years. The widow fund wasn't about death. It was about her new life, a life without me. I packed a bag and left that night. Because love without honesty is just a performance. I tell this story now because I can't stop thinking. If I hadn't looked deeper, How long would I have lived beside someone secretly preparing my absence?
It was around 8 p.m. when I heard a knock on my apartment door. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was just someone from the building. But the knocking became urgent, almost frantic. When I opened the door, my neighbor, Mrs. Parker, stood there, her face pale and her voice shaking. She said, "I think something's wrong. I heard screams coming from your place." For a second, my brain didn't process. Screams? From my house? My wife was supposed to be home alone.
I asked her to explain, and she said she'd been outside watering her plants when she heard noises, not angry yelling, but sharp cries, followed by laughter. She thought maybe someone was hurt or something bad was happening. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off, but my stomach dropped. Mrs. Parker leaned closer and whispered, "You need to go home, now." I could see the seriousness in her eyes. That's when panic set in. I sprinted down the block like my life depended on it. My mind was racing. What if someone had broken in? What if my wife was hurt? But a darker thought crept in. What if the screams weren't of pain, but of pleasure? My chest tightened. Every step felt heavier, like I already knew I was running towards something I didn't want to see. When I arrived, the lights were dim and the house felt strangely quiet. I called her name. No answer. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, hard hammering until I reached the bedroom. The door was locked. My wife had never locked the bedroom door in our entire marriage. My pulse spiked. I pressed my ear against the wood, straining to hear. At first, there was silence. Then, faint whispers, a muffled laugh, the unmistakable sound of movement. I froze. My body went cold, but adrenaline rushed in at the same time. My fists clenched as I realized what was happening on the other side. I pounded on the door, shouting her name. The noises stopped instantly. Silence. No response. My chest was burning, my throat dry. I could hear my own breathing echoing in the hallway. I shouted again, this time louder, demanding she open up. Nothing. Just quiet. At that moment, rage took control. I backed up, then slammed my shoulder into the door. Once. Twice. On the third try, it burst open. And the sight inside is something I'll never forget for as long as I live. My wife was sitting on the bed, her shirt halfway on, her face pale as if she'd seen a ghost. Next to her was a man, not some stranger, but someone I recognized from around the neighborhood, scrambling to pull up his pants. The air was thick with guilt, the smell of sweat lingering, my vision blurred, and my whole body shook. Do you know what the first thing she said was? Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I can explain." She looked me dead in the eye and muttered, "You weren't supposed to be home." That sentence cut deeper than the betrayal itself. It meant she planned for this. She didn't even bother to hide it anymore. Before I could react, he bolted. He shoved past me, nearly knocking me over, and sprinted out the back door. The coward couldn't even face me. I wanted to chase him, to rip him apart, but my legs wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, staring at the wreckage of my marriage sitting in front of me. Mrs. Parker had followed me up, and she saw him run out. She gasped and looked at me with wide eyes full of pity. I could see the truth dawning on her face. The screams she had heard weren't cries for help. They were the sound of my wife betraying me in my own home. I dragged my wife downstairs. I didn't even want to look at the bed anymore. My voice shook with fury. "Explain now!" She sat at the kitchen table, refusing to meet my eyes, picking at her nails like a teenager caught sneaking out. My rage boiled over. I slammed my fist on the table. "Explain!" Finally, she spoke. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. My jaw dropped. A mistake? She had been laughing, enjoying herself, not crying out in regret. Then she tried another angle. You've been so distant. I was lonely. The words hit me like acid. I wasn't perfect, but I had never broken our vows. And here she was, blaming me for her choice. The shouting stopped eventually. What came after was worse. Silence. The kind of silence that fills a house like poison. I stared at her, she stared at the floor, and nothing could fix the gulf that had opened between us. That night, I packed a bag. I didn't scream, I didn't hit anything, I didn't even cry. I was beyond anger. I was numb. Because once trust is shattered like that, no amount of apologies or excuses can glue it back together. And now, I'm here telling this story to strangers on Reddit because I need to know. What would you do if your neighbor helped you catch your wife red-handed? Our 10th anniversary was supposed to be perfect. I booked a table at the restaurant where we had our very first date. I even had a small gift ready, a necklace I knew she'd been admiring online. She smiled that morning, kissed me, and said she was excited for the evening. At the time, I thought we were solid. I thought we were still us. An hour before dinner, she called. Something came up at work. I'll be late. Her voice was rushed, distracted. I told her I'd wait at the restaurant, but she never showed up. Not after 30 minutes, not after an hour. I called and texted, no answer. My gift sat on the table untouched as I made excuse after excuse in my head. By the third hour, I was panicking. No reply, no explanation, just silence. I called her coworkers. None of them knew where she was. My chest tightened with dread. I left the restaurant, the gift still in its little bag, and drove around aimlessly, praying she'd call. Finally, desperation took over. I opened the GPS tracker app we shared, something we had both agreed on years ago for safety. Her location pinged across town, not at her office. It was at a hotel. Every red light felt like torture. My hands gripped the wheel until my knuckles turned white. My mind raced through every scenario. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe there was some mistake. Maybe... But deep down, I already knew. When I arrived, her car was right there, parked neatly like she wasn't hiding a thing. My heart dropped. Seeing her car outside that hotel made denial impossible. I stepped inside. The carpet muffled my footsteps, but my pulse roared in my ears. The elevator ride felt endless. When I stepped out, the hallway stretched like a tunnel of dread. Room numbers ticked by. And then, hers. The GPS dot hovered on my screen, right outside room 312. My stomach twisted. I could hear muffled voices and laughter inside. I raised my fist to knock, but my hand shook. Part of me wanted to walk away, to keep pretending. I knocked. Silence. Then whispers. Then the sound of feet scrambling. I knocked harder. Finally, the door cracked open, and in that split second, everything I feared became real. She stood there, wrapped in a hotel robe, hair messy, face pale. Behind her, a man lounged on the bed, shirtless, smirking like he owned the room. My vision blurred. I felt my chest caving in. Do you know what she said? Not, "This isn't what it looks like," not, "I can explain." She whispered, "You weren't supposed to find me." He leaned back, arms behind his head, and had the audacity to smirk at me. Like I was the fool in this room. Like my entire marriage was a joke to him. I demanded answers. She stammered. "It was just one time. I didn't mean for you to find out." The lies poured out like poison. I looked her in the eyes and realized the woman I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who didn't even care about the destruction she'd caused. I left the hotel in silence. She chased me, crying, but her tears meant nothing. The gift bag with the necklace was still in my car. I threw it in the trash on the way home. Our anniversary was supposed to mark 10 years of love. Instead, it marked the end. And now I sit here, typing this, asking strangers, what would you do if the person you trusted most vanished on your anniversary and GPS led you straight to their betrayal? The day she left wasn't just the end of our marriage. It was the end of every connection. Within hours, she had blocked me on everything: phone, email, Facebook, Instagram. To the world, it was like I no longer existed. My chest felt hollow, like she had not only erased our relationship, but erased me. The first few months were unbearable. I woke up every morning reaching for my phone, only to find silence. No messages, no calls. I tortured myself by checking mutual friends' posts, looking for glimpses of her. But she was gone, living a life without me. Eventually, word spread. She was seeing someone new. Pictures of vacations, dinners, laughs. I stared at those photos until my eyes blurred, wondering how she could smile so easily while I struggled just to breathe. I sank into a dark place. Sleepless nights, empty bottles, days where I couldn't find the strength to leave bed. I felt worthless, discarded, like all those years we spent together had meant nothing to her. Finally, a friend dragged me to therapy. I resisted at first, but slowly I began to let go. I learned that her betrayal didn't define me, that healing wasn't about forgetting her, it was about remembering myself. 2 years later, I met someone. Kind, patient, gentle. She didn't push me, didn't demand I be whole right away. She simply walked beside me, reminding me what trust could feel like. Trust was the hardest part. Every time she smiled at her phone, my stomach dropped. But she always showed me no secrets, no lies. Piece by piece, she rebuilt the parts of me that had been shattered. When we booked our first trip, a beach getaway, I felt nervous and excited. It wasn't just a vacation. It was proof I could move forward, that I wasn't chained to my past anymore. The irony was cruel. The beach we chose was the same one I used to visit with my ex. I didn't realize until I saw the pier. Memories flooded back, the laughter, the promises. But I reminded myself, this time I wasn't there with a liar. As we walked along the sand, hand in hand, I heard it. A voice I knew instantly, even after 3 years. My chest tightened. I turned slowly, and there she was, my ex-wife. She froze when our eyes met. She hadn't expected to see me. Her mouth opened, but no words came. My new partner squeezed my hand, grounding me, reminding me I wasn't alone. Finally, she spoke. "I didn't think you'd move on so fast." Fast? 3 years of silence, of pain, of rebuilding. And she called it fast? I laughed bitterly. My girlfriend stood tall, unshaken. She didn't flinch, didn't feel threatened. Instead, she leaned closer to me and whispered, "Let's go. She doesn't deserve any more of your time." For years, I thought closure would come from her apology or an explanation. But in that moment, I realized closure was simply not caring anymore. She no longer had power over me. We walked away together, leaving her behind on the sand. For the first time in years, I didn't look back. Because the truth is, moving on isn't about forgetting the person who broke you. It's about finally remembering the person you were always meant to be. And that's why I'm here. Because I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't anger. It's happiness.
After years of saving, I finally got my own place. It wasn't much, just a modest two-bedroom apartment, but it was mine. I paid the rent, I furnished it, and for the first time, I felt independent. Every paycheck, every sacrifice had led to this moment of freedom.
One evening, I came home from work and nearly tripped over a suitcase in the hallway. Confused, I stepped inside. More bags. My heart sank when I saw her, my younger sister, sprawled out on the couch like she owned the place. What's going on?" I asked. She looked up casually, chewing gum, and said, "Oh, I'm moving in for a while. Hope you don't mind." My jaw dropped. She hadn't asked, hadn't even hinted. She had simply decided that my apartment was now hers too. When I told her she couldn't just move in, she rolled her eyes. "Relax. You've got extra space. What's the big deal?" She acted like she was entitled to my home just because we were siblings. The next day, my parents called. Instead of siding with me, they scolded me. "She's your sister. Family helps family. Don't be selfish." I tried explaining that I worked hard for this apartment, but they brushed me off. I tried setting rules. No overnight guests, split utilities, clean up after yourself. She laughed in my face. "I'm not your tenant, I'm your sister." Every attempt to set boundaries was ignored. Days turned into weeks. She left dishes piled up, blasted music at 2 a.m., and even brought friends over without asking. My apartment no longer felt like mine. It felt like I was a stranger in my own home. Every conversation became an argument. She twisted my words, accused me of being controlling, and even told relatives I was kicking her out on the street. The lies spread, and suddenly everyone saw me as the villain. When my friends visited, they were shocked. "Dude, why is she here? She doesn't respect you." Hearing it from others made it sting worse. I realized I wasn't crazy. I was being taken advantage of. The breaking point came when I found she had gone through my desk drawers. She claimed she was just looking for paper, but I knew better. My privacy was gone, my peace destroyed. I snapped. I told her to pack her things and leave. She screamed, cursed, and threw a tantrum like a child. "You're abandoning me. You're heartless." But I didn't back down. Within an hour, my phone exploded with calls from family. My parents, uncles, cousins, all telling me I was wrong, that blood is thicker than water, that I should sacrifice my comfort for her. For the first time, I said no. I told them all that I refused to let her live rent-free while destroying my home. They called me selfish, but deep down, I knew it was the right decision. She eventually left, slamming the door and vowing never to speak to me again. My parents stopped calling for weeks. I sat in silence, wondering if I'd just destroyed my family ties forever. Now I sit here writing this because the truth is, sometimes family can be just as toxic as strangers. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is protect your own peace, even if it means standing alone. So, Reddit, what would you do if your sibling moved into your home without asking and your entire family took their side? It was 2 a.m. when I heard it. A faint buzzing sound under the bed. At first I thought it was my phone, but mine was on the nightstand. The noise came again. My wife stirred but didn't move. Curiosity got the better of me, and I knelt down, reaching into the darkness. My fingers brushed something smooth. A phone. I pulled it out and stared.
It wasn't hers, at least not the one I knew. Different case, different wallpaper. My stomach dropped. Why would she have a second phone? I glanced at her sleeping form, my heart racing. The phone buzzed again in my hand. The next morning, I confronted her. She laughed nervously. "Oh, that? It's just my old phone. I forgot it was there." But the screen had been glowing with recent notifications. Old phones don't keep buzzing at 2 a.m. When she went to shower, I checked it. Messages lit up the screen. Unknown numbers. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." My vision blurred. My chest felt like it was being crushed. Then came the photos. Not just of her, but of her with another man, smiling, kissing, holding hands. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. Each swipe was another dagger. Digging deeper, I found banking apps, transfers, hotel bookings, dinner reservations. She hadn't just cheated. She'd built an entire secret life funded behind my back. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't even recognize the woman sleeping in the next room anymore. I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling all night, rehearsing what I'd say. Should I scream? Should I cry? Should I walk away silently? By sunrise, I was a hollow shell. When I showed her the phone, she froze. Then the excuses poured out. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend. I was lonely." But the photos, the texts, the bank records, they all screamed otherwise. I asked her one simple question. "How long?" She wouldn't answer. That silence was worse than any confession. It told me everything I needed to know. The argument exploded. Shouting, tears, denial. She accused me of invading her privacy, of snooping, as if the problem wasn't the betrayal, but the fact that I had caught her. When I told her family, they begged me to forgive her. "Everyone makes mistakes. She still loves you." My own parents told me to think about our vows. But how do you rebuild a marriage when the foundation is built on lies? The final straw was another buzz. One last message popped up. "Don't worry, he'll never know." My hands went cold. She had lied straight to my face, even as her other life continued right in front of me. I packed a bag, walked out, and never looked back. The phone was still buzzing on the table when I shut the door behind me. Now, I'm here on Reddit because sometimes the person you love most is a stranger living a double life, and sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It shatters you first. So I ask, what would you do if you found your spouse's secret phone under the bed? Her best friend slipped. That's how I found out she was cheating. It started as an ordinary night. My wife and I had invited her best friend, Sarah, over for dinner. We laughed, shared stories, and everything seemed normal. I never imagined that by the end of the night, one slip of the tongue would unravel the fabric of my marriage. Over wine, Sarah giggled and said, "At least he doesn't know about your little adventures." She stopped mid-sentence, eyes wide, realizing what she'd just said. The room froze. My wife's smile faltered, and she quickly changed the subject. She laughed nervously, brushing it off as a joke. But it wasn't the kind of joke people make casually. Her hands trembled as she poured more wine. My stomach knotted. That night, I couldn't sleep. The phrase echoed in my head, "your little adventures." What did Sarah mean? What adventures? My wife slept peacefully beside me, but I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind unraveling. The next day, I called Sarah. At first, she denied everything, laughing nervously like my wife had. But when I pressed harder, her voice cracked. She said, "I shouldn't have said anything." That alone told me enough. She confessed in fragments, not names, not dates, just that things happened, and that my wife wasn't always faithful. My chest burned. The person I thought I could trust, her closest friend, had accidentally exposed her. Suddenly, so many little things made sense. The late-night work events, the sudden new clothes, the way she guarded her phone like it was a bomb. My heart sank as the puzzle came together. I started noticing her more, the way she smiled at her phone, the way she came home smelling of cologne that wasn't mine. The truth was there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. She came home late again, claiming she had stayed with colleagues. But this time, I checked. No such event had happened. She had lied, straight to my face, without flinching. One night, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I glanced at the screen. A message lit up. Last night was unforgettable. I called Sarah again, demanding the full truth. Her voice cracked with guilt. She admitted my wife had been seeing someone for months. She hadn't meant to tell me, but the guilt had been eating her alive. When I confronted my wife with everything, she broke. Tears, screaming, excuses. It didn't mean anything. It was just a mistake. But the evidence was undeniable. She sobbed, begging for forgiveness, but every tear felt like poison. She wasn't crying because she loved me. She was crying because she got caught. That night, I told her it was over. Years of marriage destroyed by one slip, one lie too many. She begged, but I had nothing left to give. Now I sit here, typing this out for strangers. Because betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your sense of reality. So, Reddit, I ask you, if your spouse's best friend accidentally exposed the truth, would you forgive, or would you walk away like I did? I opened her laptop. The emails proved everything. My wife always treated her laptop like it was part of her body. She carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. At first, I thought she was just protective of her work files, but over time, her obsession felt strange. It wasn't normal to panic whenever someone came close to it. One evening, she left it on the coffee table and went to bed early. For once, it wasn't shut or locked. My heart raced as I stared at the glowing screen. Curiosity clawed at me. What was she hiding? I told myself I'd just peek, just enough to calm my suspicions. My hand shook as I moved the cursor. The inbox was open. Hundreds of emails. Most looked normal, bills, subscriptions, work notes. But then I saw one subject line that made my stomach twist. Can't wait to feel you again. I froze. My chest tightened. Against my better judgment, I clicked. The email was from someone I didn't know. Intimate. Graphic. My wife had replied with words that didn't sound like the woman I thought I knew. I scrolled. More chains. Dozens. Hotel bookings. Secret meetings. Even messages mocking me. He has no clue. Tell him it's a work trip. Each word cut deeper. I sat there, my hands trembling over the keyboard. My heart pounded in my ears as the reality sank in. She had been living two lives, and the one with me was just a cover. Then came the photos, attachments hidden in threads, pictures of them together, smiling like I never saw her smile with me. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the laptop. The most recent email was only hours old. Room 214, meet me tonight. I felt sick. While I thought we were building a life together, she was building memories with someone else. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, staring at the laptop, the glow of betrayal burning into my eyes. I rehearsed confrontations, imagined outcomes, but nothing could prepare me for the storm that was coming. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. I slid the laptop toward her. "Want to explain?" Her face drained of color. She stammered, tried to laugh it off, but I had already seen everything.
It's just harmless flirting. It didn't mean anything. We never actually... The lies piled up, flimsy and hollow. She couldn't even keep her story straight.
Before confronting her, I had already forwarded everything to my own email. Proof, evidence, something no amount of gaslighting could erase. When I told her family, they begged me not to ruin the marriage. Think of your vows. My own parents were stunned into silence. The emails spoke louder than any denial. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I simply packed my bags. As I zipped the suitcase, she sobbed, begging me to stay. But once you read Room 214, meet me tonight, there's no going back. Now, I share this with strangers on Reddit, because betrayal doesn't always come in whispers or rumors. Sometimes it comes in an inbox, glowing in the dark, waiting for you to click. So I ask, what would you do if you opened your spouse's laptop and the emails proved everything?